Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to It's the Bearded Man podcast. I normally would say it's your favorite bearded man, but I'm sitting across from a fellow bearded brother, so I'm going to say it's with your favorite bearded men today.
Yes.
Danilo Lewis in the building.
My guy.
My man, how we doing?
Doing great.
Dude,
you know?
It's been I was looking at the date of the podcast that we originally did. That came out a year ago in September.
Yeah.
So we're talking
But we recorded in August.
We've recorded in August. I tried right before you pulled up. I was like going through my Google Cal and I was trying to figure out from 2019. I was like, when was the date that I actually recorded? And I couldn't find it.
I think it was like either between the 19th and the 20-something.
Okay, so that's crazy.
Yeah.
Today is for context,
almost
the
there.
14th.
Yeah.
So unintentionally, me and him just got back after a year. And now we're back here to cook up a podcast on this beautiful Friday night, 7 p.m.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, a year.
1 year, a lot of stuff has happened and a lot of stuff has not happened. How crazy is that?
Yeah, I can feel you on that. What do you think, looking back at the past year, what's one of the biggest things that's changed about you?
I think, going back to that old podcast we did, I kept thinking to myself, like on my way over here, I thought about like what we would talk about, like where this conversation would go. And like, I kept thinking to myself that you would ask me that question, like, what has changed and all this stuff. And I was like, I go back to that podcast. I'm thinking of like something that like a piece of advice that I gave was about patience and, learning that and being able to have a lot of patience to survive in the business I'm in. And I think this year I really needed to take that advice myself and realize that, especially like with what's going on right now in the world, like, there's nothing we can do about it. Like, I spend so much time stressing about, lost work, et cetera. And, I had to realize, I was like, well, I can't, physically, I can't change that. Mm-hmm. I had to sort of adapt to the time and realize that I just had to exercise that exact same patience that I was teaching. Mm-hmm. I had to put it to work on myself. And I just slowly got into a routine of things, slowly, had this little group of friends that kind of brought me out of that, quarantine shell that I was just like so shell shocked. And I think that's like the biggest change is like teaching myself more patience, teaching myself that it's okay that things happen how they happen. It was like, it's a learning experience. We're here to take advantage of this free time. I was thinking, I think there's one tour that got canceled that I forgot to remove from my Google Calendar. I don't know why I forgot to remove it.
So you got the notification that it was coming out.
So this tour in particular, it's the Weekend Warrior tour. So it's like Thursday, Friday, Saturday are the shows. Come back home Sunday. So I just so every other weekend I was getting these notifications like, hey, like your flight, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like,
not happening.
Every time I was like, I should just go delete this, but I didn't. But it, in a way, kind of like I was looking forward to these emails arriving. I'm like, oh yeah, I was supposed to do that. That's all right, no big deal. I'll go ahead and this is golf weekend this time or whatever other weekend this time.
Yeah, I think a lot of us, even I'm guilty of it myself, when COVID first kind of hit, I think the first couple weekends was a lot of not knowing what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
Not understanding how I'm supposed to be utilizing all of this downtime. Okay, yes, I'm working remote, or what does my life look like now that I'm not supposed to be following these guidelines? And it was also super scary in the beginning too, because don't get me wrong, it's clearly a serious matter, but I think when it was first happening, I'd go to the grocery store and there were 150 people deep out of Trader Joe's. All the toilet paper and paper towels were sold out.
Sold out.
Like people were just treating it. There was one day I walked into Trader Joe's and I kind of weirdly smirked and I was like, I literally feel like I'm living in a movie right now. I always enjoyed weirdly those movies like where the world's ending and everyone's like rushing to the grocery store and it's like last person to survive, the survival of the fittest. And it's crazy.
It's funny you say that because like I don't think without that happening, I would have never discovered like a vegan lifestyle because I was kind of forced to look, well, not forced, but what was left, let's say pasta wise, it was vegan pasta that was left. And I was like, well, I have to buy food. So in my head, I was like, I'm not going to turn down food. It was just like the 2 boxes that were left. I was like, whatever.
Eat something or eat nothing at all.
And I might like slowly but surely, I was like, this is pretty great. And, I started discovering all these other recipes and stuff. And it's like, that's like one of like a positive thing where I was like, in my head, I was like, all of that stuff that negatively was affecting like shops and toilet paper being sold out, and pretty much like I think it took almost about a month before I saw the bread aisle full.
It was absolutely insanity.
And to me, it was like, I just adjusted to it. I was like, this is what's available. I'm just going to make the best out of this scenario. And that was just that.
I knew we were in big trouble when Amazon Prime was like, you'll get it in 2 weeks. I'm like, hold the phone. Yeah. I'm used to my like every other day shipping. Yeah. You're telling me I got to wait 2 weeks? That's when I knew there was a big red flag.
Yeah. It was, that was interesting to go through that. The way I saw it was like, at the end of the day, I put myself in a position that I thought, there's always someone who has it worse than me. Mm-hmm. I just need to take advantage of the situation that I'm on, regardless of how bad it could be. There's people that are in much worse ways. So in my head, I was like, I just try to stay positive as possible, especially that first month. The first month, there was so much uncertainty as to where this was going to go.
Yeah.
I remember like the first 2 weeks, I was trying to hammer out like so many other ways that I could make income. And, in my head, I went through so many different like outlets as far as like my work and how I can make income out of that work into like, selling presets or selling prints. And it felt so rushed. I've been sort of saving what I was going to do with creatively with the stuff that I've been building. And during those 2 weeks, I felt like I was rushing everything. I was ready to hit enter, like send everything available, just put it out there. And something at the last minute, I was like, this is not ready. Like, I didn't want to put it out this way. And I just sort of canceled everything, took a step back, and just slowly like came back into that routine that I talked about earlier.
Yeah, I think the last thing you want to do in a situation like that is start rushing projects or things that you feel like there's definitely more work that needs to be done. But also at the same time, if you're not just you, but if you're somebody that's in a position where financially you have to, you have to at some point go, I need to put this out to put food on the table, to keep the lights on, which I think is like such an interesting take when you get to just big picture, like creatives, right? When they work all of their entire life to get to a place where they're making a living, doing the thing they want to do. And then they finally get to a position where they literally, financially have made smart decisions where they could live the next 24 months and not worry about a bill. And I also think there's something about having that fire under your ass and like it helps you stay creative and it helps you stay on the front. But I want to go back to the vegan thing. Like, has that been a complete new shift for you? Or
so I did from starting like late, or actually I should say early April. It's when we started like late March, and it was like, all right, let's give this a shot. Let's see what happens. Will it work out? Will it not work out? And in my head, I was like, I'm just waiting till meat's available or this is available. I didn't care. Like it was just like, I'm just going to make the best of what's available. And then little by little, like I said, I started finding these recipes and started finding these flavors that made sense to me. I was like, okay, like this is not meat, or this isn't, cheese or things like that. And starting to find those replacements. And I got this, it was almost like homework. Like it kept my brain busy trying to figure out all these things that I could replace, instead of eating animals that was eating, instead of cheese, it's like cashew based cheese and all this other stuff. And finding, I was like, this tastes great. Like, why haven't I done this in the past? And, like it turned into like one dish a week to 3 to 4, and then going like full vegan. And I went full vegan for about, like 3.5 months. And then I slowly started integrating back like chicken and fish, but still no red meat.
Wow.
So I went no red meat. I started no red meat right before quarantine, and kind of just kept at it. And I've been at it now since then.
Damn, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I did have one hiccup.
Gotta cheat once in a while.
Yeah. But it didn't end well for me, and I was like, that's a sign. Maybe I should just stick to no red meat.
I think the dieting is so interesting because I think everybody's body's different, and you have to test and see. I think big scale, yes, eat healthy. A bag of Cheetos every night is not going to be good for you. But I really get so interested in the dieting aspects because I think every diet affects people differently. Like I've heard people talk on Joe Rogan's podcast about the carnivore diet, where it's just literally all meat all day long. To me, that's
intense.
That's intense, and I couldn't do it. I like balance, but I just think that it's so interesting how dieting is just it reacts a little bit differently.
So if, people go back and look at, those old videos that we did that video from that podcast we did a year ago, I was about 40 pounds heavier.
Wow.
When we did that last year.
Damn, that's crazy.
And,
you must feel a lot like lighter than on your feet, right?
Yeah. It's
more energy, I bet.
The energy part was the biggest difference, especially on the road. Like, I thought I wasn't going to be able to sustain a diet and working out on the road. And somehow I found a way and it worked out great. Like I lost so much weight, build up so much energy. Like I was just in it, so that kind of brought me into this, like, all right, I got to watch what I eat, what can I change? And, like talking to like trainers and, friends that have done this so many times. And that's like, I started paying attention to that. So when, the vegan thing happened, I was like, let me figure out how this can benefit me. And it worked out great. But like you just said, the balance, I think going full vegan, I think for me wasn't like the best thing.
Yeah.
You got to watch out with like, plant-based diets and vegan diets. It's, those replacements do have a lot of cholesterol, a lot of high fats, and you don't think it because you think it's just cashew.
Yeah.
But it's really bad if you're, the quantity that you're using. So it's like in my head, I was like, all right, let's figure out a balance here. And that's where I'm at now, like trying to balance everything out. Still, like I said, no red meat, but still now eating fish, eating chicken, everything grill, everything fresh.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like the towing lifestyle would throw me off with the working out aspect, because I definitely feel like in the past year when you guys were on the road that I would see you guys posting like you guys were doing jumping jack. I mean, you guys like made it work outside of the bus for sure, which I think is respectable, because I'm definitely one of those people that I like the feeling of walking in the gym. It's almost like me putting on my jersey to like, all right, it's time to clock in. And then when I leave, I know I'm done for the day. So I think that definitely takes some mental training. But overall, as somebody, I was so interested, especially with you coming in today, because you're somebody that normally is constantly on the road. I don't know what it averages per year the last couple of years, maybe 9+ months on the road, or maybe something a little less, which is a lot. So how, aside from the dieting and aside from probably, well, I'll say just aside from the dieting, what else have you positively found with being stuck in a city for the last 5 months when normally you would have been popping around for the last 5?
The number one thing that I keep telling people when they've asked me what have I been doing during this time is, when we talked last time, I had just moved to LA. Yeah. I was only in LA for about 6 months, maybe 7 months.
Living, but you probably weren't even here for that 6 months.
I spent already like 3 months away. So it was like,
that rent comes in, you're like, damn, I'm paying for this. I'm not
even living there. And one of the things I've learned is to really, really love Los Angeles and California. I've been doing, the hikes,
I see you on the hikes with the little dog out there. I see you.
It's my dog, I think she's like more famous than I am now. Like everybody, like it does the most crazy engagement when I post photos of her.
100%. I'm thinking about getting a dog just to hopefully get some girls from it, dude. Just start, this is my dog. I'll watch your dog on the weekends if you ever need some downtime.
She's a social butterfly, so she's really good at like just honing in on, anybody, essentially.
100%.
But yeah, it's just like, the only thing I haven't done is surfing. So I think, I see the surf
bro,
here.
Just got this last weekend.
That's one thing if
you want to come out.
Yeah, I need to learn that, but I've enjoyed hanging out with friends that I don't normally get to see. Yeah. I've been, building these, or not building, but rebuilding these relationships that because I'm gone so often, we're all friends, we're all acquaintances, but we don't get the time to really find out about each other, or really spend time with each other, and I'm very like grateful that I've had like this close group of friends during this time that, I've been, for the first, at the beginning of quarantine, I was like strict. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to see anyone. I'm just going to do this. Slowly, as like things were like opening up, I was like, all right, I want to hang out. I want to see somebody. I want to go out with friends. And, I would go see my friend Aubrey or Clancy and slowly like that was like our little group of guys that we would just like, we're just going to stick with each other. Like, let's be safe about it. But getting to know them, more personally, getting to hang out with them more. Golf's all, once golf started, like that was like a game changer for us. It was like, there was a point, I think I was golfing like 5 times a week. I was just like, all right, I gotta do something. but like it just brought so many different friends that I had no idea like that even played or anything like that, but it just kind of brought us together. And I've thoroughly enjoyed being home. I've loved, I learned to love LA because, even when I came back, that first month that I was back from the last tour, I felt like it wasn't home. Like, just still like, I didn't know where things were. Like, people were, I had this habit of when people say like, they mention where they live or, where they're going, I'm like, where is that? You want
to know more about it.
Yeah. I was like, in relations to like, if I live here and this is here, how far is that from this city and that city? And I've taken it upon myself to like kind of explore a little more, go in different places and see more of California that, than I wanted to in the past, but obviously didn't have the chance to. And now I'm like, I'm enjoying this. California's beautiful. So, yeah.
I think people don't even realize, and that's what still trips me up about LA. Now this, I'm somebody that will have been out here for 3 years next month. Yeah. I'm somebody that has driven for Uber for almost 2 years it was like 2.5 years full time in LA. So I've driven all over. Yeah. And I still to this day like get so excited, even if I'm going from here to West Hollywood, 30-minute drive, I'm like stoked, cruising down the 405, California Love by Tupac bumping, windows down. I'm like, yo, I live in LA, baby. Yeah. It still feels like the butterflies. But what I think is so interesting about LA versus a lot of other major cities is there's just so much to see. Yes. And there's just so many different pockets. This part of LA compared to Manhattan Beach, to Venice, to Santa Monica, to West Hollywood, to Beverly Hills, to downtown LA, to the Valley. Yeah. The Valley is another world, and that's still LA County. But there's just so much to see and do. And I think that's what excites me the most about this place is it can be overwhelming because of how big it is and how stretched out it is to get from one homie spot to another. But I just think it's so exciting because, like, what do you want to do today? You want to go to the beach? All right, we have 6 different options. And within those options, are you looking for like the Venice vibe where there's a lot going on? Or do you want to go to like Manhattan where it's kind of low key? Or do you want to go to West Hollywood where it's kind of popping? Or do you want something that's more low key like Culver? I don't know. There's something about it that just excites me. It's just full of energy.
It's funny you said that,
opportunity.
All those things you said, I've done. I've done the Manhattan Beach, going on a Saturday at like, 7 a.m. to go on a run down the beach path.
I got a story for you about that.
That's, it doesn't get any better. Like I kept joking with my cousin. So my cousin just moved here 2 weeks ago. And for like a few months.
From DC?
From New York. But he is from DC area as well. But he was living in New York for like 9 years almost.
Wow.
And I kept joking with him. I was like, it's about time you move here. He's an actor, so... he's done a couple of series, and in my head I was like, that's all great and everything, but everything is in LA. Like, 100%. Everything's here. So he makes the move, and the first few days that he was here, we took him out, and I kept joking with him. I was like, you see like how it is today? Like, it was a beautiful day, no clouds, sunshine. It wasn't too hot that day, which was perfect. And I was like, it's like this every single day. It doesn't change. It's beautiful every day.
Especially coming from the East Coast, like you're used to all the weather.
He's like, and like 3 days later, he like texted me and said, "Hey, cuz," like he was like, "It hasn't rained a single day since you've been here. I haven't seen a single cloud." I was like, "I told you." Like, it's like this every day. Like, it's such a game changer. Your mood's so much better. Like, I think of like friends who are in DC and like, they're going through it now, like super heavy in regards to like quarantine and COVID. And they're stressing out. It's like there's a lot of stuff that's locked down now. There's they don't have the hikes, they don't have the beach, they don't have this. There's other things they can do, yes. But I think to myself, I was like, if I was home during this time, I would seriously be like in a really, really dark spot.
Definitely. I mean, and you got to think too, a lot of, at least coming from the East Coast. So when this first hit, you were talking March, April. So people were still in the winter months. It was kind of shitty weather. So it wasn't terrible to be inside, but then even when it started to get to May, June, and we were still pretty heavily locked down, and I have tons of family and friends that live in Boston. Yeah. And I'm like, I feel bad because there's 3 to 4 solid months of good weather. And then that's kind of it for at least like being outside. And, luckily being here, it's beautiful out all the time. And so when I'm seeing COVID really hit and people are stuck inside, I'm like, man, these people are going to be miserable if they get only a month or 2 of like good weather. And then they're forced back inside come September, October. And then you have all the winter time.
Yeah. I mean, it took over spring, summer, every beautiful part of the East Coast.
Yeah.
You know?
I saw you. I think it's when I chimed into you and I hit you up about sending you some like liquid IV because I wanted to keep my man hydrated. But I think it was when you were actually running in Manhattan Beach one day, bro. Long story short, about 3 weeks ago, I'm running in Manhattan Beach on that same,
I saw that,
bro. In the same strand, I ran into Kendrick Lamar, bro.
That's crazy.
Kendrick Lamar, like,
dude, are you just like running next to him,
bro? I was literally finishing up the run. Okay, and I was on my cool down. I walk an extra half a mile just to cool down, and he was jogging at me.
Oh, okay.
And he was within 15 feet of me, and I didn't even think twice. I said, yo, nobody's around because it's COVID. Like, people are really, it's quiet out there.
Yeah.
Middle of Saturday at noon, I go, yo, Kendra, huge fan. I give him a little fist bump.
Yeah.
And he's like light jogging, but going the other direction. He said, thanks, man. I said, do you mind if I run with you? And he's like, sure. And I went from walking and I just did like a 60, 70 second jog with him. And I was just like chopping it up with Kendrick Lamar.
If Kendrick says, yeah, man, you get back and running again.
So we kept going. And then at some point I go, honestly, man, this is probably really weird. I'm going to let you go, but just like, thank you so much. And the best was he's like, oh, good, man. He's like, I'm here running every weekend. I'll probably see you again. I said, I sure hope so.
Wow, I got to go back to my house.
Yeah, dude, every weekend I'm like, where's Kendrick? But I'm like trying to be like a weirdo, you know?
I'm surprised that that's where he chooses to run. That's great.
Yeah, I was, I think too, he's extremely successful, but I feel like Manhattan is such a residential, quiet, like he would never run down like Venice Beach. Like he would get swarmed. But I think a place like Manhattan where it's very residential, I bet you people don't even realize like because he's I didn't realize he's like 5'7", 5'8", and he's thin. Like he was thin. I was impressed that I even noticed him because he's a small guy. Like he could just get by. So that was my cool little quarantine Manhattan Beach Kendrick Lamar story. So
I had to took about like a couple of weeks off of running just because like I was getting so heavy into playing golf and I was so tired
to go work. I mean that's.
Yeah, but I was like, my legs are tired. Like going to the gym, I was going to the gym like 3 times a week, and I was like, my arms are sore, my back is sore. I was like, all right, this is not working. Like let me take all that off for like a few weeks, and I'm gonna just do the golf thing for a few weeks, like heavy. And now I'm like finding that balance more. Yeah,
Wait till you get on that surfboard.
Yeah.
After this, I'll send you the information. I would suggest take one lesson out of Santa Monica. That's where I took mine. Okay. It was $130. It was an hour and 45 minutes. Yeah. They give you the surfboard, the wetsuit, and a personal instructor. Okay. If you recruit friends, it gets cheaper. So if you want to bring a couple of the homies,
I have a lot of friends.
Bring them with you. But man, what a workout! Like
I can imagine.
And I didn't think about this. I was like, okay, I'm physically like in good shape. Like I should be able to handle this. I did not think about the amount of arm work it is paddling your way through. But luckily with the instructor, they're there to push you and give you that extra little push. It was super helpful at least to learn it. But man, if that's any of interest, it took me 3 years to finally get up and do it. I would highly suggest just trying it out. You will fall in love with it, man.
It's like, how you're in California. How can you not?
I know.
So that was my thinking. And actually, I got it from Manhattan Beach. I remember we finished the run. We went to the beach. And actually, it was during the run that we saw towards what is it, Hermosa Beach?
If you're looking like on a map, it goes Manhattan Beach, Hermosa Beach, then Redondo Beach.
All right. So it's
north to south. Sorry.
Okay, so we were running towards Hermosa Beach, and on our way back to Manhattan.
Yep.
But so on our way there is when we saw the surfers, and when we came back to the apartment, we were just like, why don't we learn how to surf? Like that looks fun. I mean, the water was about, I want to say, it felt like it was 9 degrees.
Oh yeah.
A couple of my friends that we were running with, they all jumped in the water, and I was like, all right, let me see what's about. My toes felt that 9-degree water. I was like, nope, I'm good, thank you.
I promise the wetsuit will keep you nice and warm. It'll keep you nice and toasty. That one I figured, but it'll keep you nice and toasty.
I'm not going into that water.
I'm not dealing with it. What I know there's gonna be for sure a lot of creatives and freelancers that probably listen to this podcast, and I hope that a lot of people have found a way to utilize their downtime. But as somebody obviously is normally on, as we've talked about, somebody that's normally on the road, you're starting to find ways to like utilize that time. Is there any advice that you would give to creatives, freelancers that are probably going to hear this and are struggling to find projects or find ways to stay busy?
I would say, let's go back to the patience part, because without it, depending on how you are, I mean, you're going to drive yourself crazy overthinking it. You're going to rush into things that probably won't do any service to you. And that's the approach I took. There was, I saw this time as like, I moved to LA for a reason, which was to expand my business outside of just touring and music. This is the time for me to utilize this time for that, because, I don't get this luxury of being at home and reaching out to clients and reaching out to other like prospective clients that I normally wouldn't have had the time. And, I had to sort of reprogram my brain as to how I approach that. Like I know how to hit up music managers and the things they want to hear and what I got to present. I know that in, the editorial world, that's completely different. That's, while, at the end of the day, yes, the gist of it as to how you pitch a client is kind of the same. Your wording is a little different because you're looking for a different kind of work. It's different budgets. There's so much involved that I wanted to really take my time, do a lot of learning, essentially. It's like I taught myself, not so much taught myself, but I just kept researching a lot of photographers that are in that world. And I wanted to see what path they took. I looked at podcasts. I wanted to like see if they were doing podcasts and talked about it. Like the same way, like let's say a kid who wanted to get into touring may have listened to the podcast that we did a year ago. That's what I was doing with these like other photographers that I saw that that's the work they did. I was like, I'd like to merge into this world as well. And for me, it was like, it was like the beginning. I felt like I was rushing so much. And it's never been my style to rush into things. And once I hit that pause, I was like, okay, let me take that step back, really look at the bigger picture. How do I approach this? And again, it was slowly into the research. How do I get into this? Luckily, because of the guys I work for, I got to shoot a magazine cover.
I saw that Hamptons magazine, dude. Congrats. Dude, that's huge.
Yeah, it was
huge.
It was amazing because I had been wanting to do that for them for a long time. And when that opportunity presented itself, it was like done. This was right before COVID, but the shoot was supposed to happen 3 days after they put the lockdown in. So it was a pause, and I'm just like, okay, like that was my chance to like really dive into this world that I didn't know anything about and I really wanted to get into. And here I was like, sort of like down. I'm like, okay, is this going to happen? It got postponed like 3 different times. And it wasn't until like around a month and a half later when things sort of started opening up again that they reached back to me. They were like, hey, we kind of need to get this cover done. Like, I had already sent a creative treatment and the creative direction for it, but it involved a lot of moving parts, which obviously because of these times, we can't have that many people in one small area, so I had to adapt. And in my head, I was like, that's music, that's concert, touring photography. It's just, how do I adapt so quick to this? And I immediately, like within an hour, I reworked everything.
Wow.
It's unfortunate that I had to cut like so many people out of the job just because it's what the client required. Was like, hey, we can't have this, we can't have that. You're gonna have to cut this. The budget was essentially cut in half.
Wow.
But we made it work. We got it done in like record time. I want to say, like, one of the things that the magazine people came back to me was like, they were just like, how did you do this so quickly? It was like, can we like we want to know so we can try to replicate it with other photographers and like be able to like do other shoots, because usually shoots take like 1 or 2 days depending on like wardrobe and looks and whatever creative direction it is. So it could, and we're talking all day. I did this in a few hours. Now, granted, I did say, I know these guys, so
there's a relationship established.
Right, there's
already.
an easier factor of direction where, like, if I say, "Hey, do this," they know exactly what I mean. I don't have to readjust and all this other stuff. But once I did that and that was done and was able to do that, that sparked this crazy, like, over the top interest. Where it's like, all right, I've done it. How do I expand from this? How do I go from Hamptons magazine to say Rolling Stone, Vogue, like the big. And that's where I've been at now. So it's been a process of adjusting like the way I approach the work. Cause during touring, when you're shooting in a show, it's so fast paced, it's like, it's an hour and 45 minutes, but it feels like 20 seconds.
Of course.
And even though that shoot I did was like, it was about 2.5, 3 hours, it felt like 10 hours. You know, I wasn't shooting rapid fire. I was taking one photo, looking back at it, taking another photo, looking back at it. And it was such a slow process that I wasn't used to. But, you know, it's given me it gave me this outlet that I needed. You know, like we all need like that one gig that's sort of
confidence boost. It
Right.
gets the momentum going.
you want to make sure that you can really do this, you know, like, can you really perform? Can you really deliver on what you say you're going to deliver? You know, I didn't know that I could. I mean, to myself, I'm like, yes, you know, I've put myself in a position that I'm confident enough that I will deliver, but can you to the expectations that they're used to, you know, at the end of the day, like I'm a music guy to them. I'm not an editorial photographer to them. But I know I can do it. You know, it's just a matter of them being able to see it. Like I have, you know, I've gone through clients, like, you know, I've done brand work, I've done lifestyle work for brands, and there's always revisions. There's always like so many different things that need to be changed, and you know, and this was one of the first times where it's like I deliver the photos and the reply back, these are great. Don't change anything. These are ready to go. And I was like,
wow,
great, fantastic. Wow. So that to me was like all these little things like from this shoot started happening where it's like, okay,
they're trusting you.
Right. So I got that little rush where I'm just like, yeah. So, you know, if anyone's like listening, like you said, like in regards to like during quarantine and COVID times, how they can take advantage of this time is the research. To me, like I spent almost 3-4 weeks researching all of this. Looking at magazine covers, looking at photo shoots, looking at BTS videos, listening to interviews. I wanted to educate myself because I don't come from that world.
Yeah.
I didn't want to make a mistake on my first one. You know, I wanted to be over prepared, and I needed a lot of patience to sit there and not rush it and really, you know, take a deep dive into this world. And that to me was like, you know, that's what I needed to do.
Yeah.
That's what I've always done. And, you know, everybody, you know, I understand that right now it's that time where you know, people are desperate. You know, they're trying to find a way to make sense of all of this and make the best out of it, or you know, save whatever they can out of work. But to me, it's like, hey, it's best to just take your time and find what's really, really going to give you that rush. Because once you have that rush, I mean, there's no stopping you. Nothing's going to stop you once you feel it.
Yeah.
But if you start like rushing work and rushing things and not really like diving into the work the way you normally would because you're just trying to collect a paycheck, you know, it's not, you won't get that satisfaction. You know, you won't be able to like really hone in into what you're doing. And yeah, like to me is like, you know, take your time.
Yeah.
You know, I know like, you know, that's what we have. That's all we have right now. All we have right now is just time. Take advantage of that. You know, there's been periods of time during quarantine that I haven't even picked up my camera at all. I haven't felt creative. You know, just the other day I was I have to rework my website, and I was going through files and going through catalogs and everything, and I was trying to kind of re-edit some older things. And I felt stuck. I was just like, I don't like this. I was bouncing between 3 or 4 different drives and like 7, 8 different catalogs. It made no sense. The way I was doing it made no sense.
Yeah.
And I stopped and I was like, all right, I'm in my head. This doesn't work. Like, you know, it felt like I was rushing it. So that's, to me, I went back and I was like, all right, let me think about the images that I want to put there. Because my website before, it was just all over the place. It had way too many photos. It made absolutely no sense. It was like 90% music stuff. Even though most people know me for that, I've done so many other work that I like to show that I don't normally show on social media, just because obviously it's not the stuff that grabs attention. But you know, I've done work for like Adidas. I've done work for like Samsung. Like people don't have, you know, they've seen it from time to time that I post like little snippets, but they don't see the grand finale of the work. And to me, I was like, all right, I need the website to reflect this. Because
show you can wear many hats.
Yeah, and because that's the direction I'm taking. You know, I'm taking the direction away from music, away from touring, and like in that moment, you know, I was rushing it again, and I was like, no, I gotta take my time. Now what I'm doing is researching websites, seeing like what are the best websites that I've seen that work. You know, I've spoken to a lot of creative friends who have themselves reworked their own websites to showcase what they're doing now, and that's where I'm at now, and that's like. to me is like, if I'm, giving you advice or kind of a direction to take, it's just take your time.
Yeah.
Like it happens to all of us. Don't feel like you're alone in this island. You're not. Like, trust me, you're in my island. If you're feeling, like stress and you don't know what direction to take, you and I, we're on the same island. You want to talk to me, come talk to me, and we can figure this out together.
Yeah.
Because that's what I've done. I've gone to so many different friends who are both in the industry and outside of the industry to get advice, just to talk and listen and see what I could get from it. And it's been very rewarding to me, like, just to take my time, and I think at the, when we come out of this, I'm going to come out with, more patience and more secure in my abilities to really deliver on a bigger scale. Like I know I can deliver concert photos within hours of a show ending, but thinking of a bigger scale of like, hey, this isn't coming out for another 6 months, but you got to deliver now and prepare everything, and you'll wait. But at the end of the day, like, that bigger scale is just going to give you a bigger rush, and it's going to lead you into so many different things, because that's what's happening to me now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm heading into a direction that, I haven't spoken about. Like I said to you earlier, I've been away from social media, just kind of quietly taking my time to really focus on this, and being away from social media, because I had to rework that. There aren't shows happening, so I'm not posting show photos. There aren't.
Seen some McLaren photos out there. Yeah. I seen those whips, man, looking nice. That's
thanks to my guy Bill. Like, he's this kid who he's like you. You and him should talk. Like, I love the energy of people in LA, and that energy. Like, from the moment I met him, like, he helped me out in the shoot in LA 2 years ago. Because I wasn't living in LA and I needed to source things, and I called this kid, and he was like, he hammered everything like just so quick, and I was just like, I love kids like him. Like, he's starting his YouTube vlogging, and all based around like the car community. And I told him, I was like, man, like, you're doing great. Like, I remember when I first met you, you were still trying to figure out what direction your photography was gonna go. I remember running into him at like festivals randomly, but I knew he was into cars, and he would post like festival footage and like models, and it was like all over the place. And during quarantine, we kind of like connected again, and was able to see his like where he was at now from where I met him. And I'm like, dude, like, you're crushing it. Like, you may think you don't have the numbers that you want. Obviously, like, we all feel that way all the time, but you're in the right direction. Like, every direction is just up. And like, yeah, that's him. He's like, he was another person that kind of like got me out of that creative funk, where I was like, I just need to do different stuff. I just don't need to see concert stuff. I want to like shoot things that I normally would not shoot. Yeah. And that's where like I'm at now, like, just exploring, like really, really focusing on that bigger picture, bigger scale projects. Most people don't know, like, we just shot this video for Coldplay that just aired it just aired, what was it, like a few weeks ago, aired on what's that concert series they do? I always forget. It's a Global Dance or Global something. I always forget what the name of it is.
Yeah, there's so many of them. I can't even keep up. I can't even get up to date with them.
But yeah, like, I was able to do the footage for the new video, the new music video that was being done for Coldplay. My responsibility was the Chris Martin side, which, like, to me was like funny. Like, I was part of a bigger team, and I was like, when they were like, hey, you're gonna shoot, you're gonna be responsible for Chris Martin. I was like, great. All right. I'm not saying no.
Double time.
I was
my
like, you
shoes,
sure you don't?
Get
You
my
sure you don't want
batteries ready.
me? You sure you don't want me to do the drummer? Like, that seems like a little lower scale video wise.
You gotta step up to the challenge, baby.
Yeah, and it was great. Like, it's like it involved a bigger production that I'm not used to. It involved setting up a production room, green screens, like all this other stuff that I normally would never have my hands on. Yeah. But I had to do it. I had to learn the spot, and I just, another piece of advice is surround yourself with friends you can trust that will help you, because that's what I've done, especially in LA. Like, I don't know LA like that. I don't know the resources that I can grab, but I know people. So I will go to people that I trust and I will ask the questions. I'm not, regardless of how long I've been doing this in the business, I don't know all the answers.
Yeah.
I want to surround myself with people that do know the answers and will help me find the solutions.
Yeah.
But seeing that scale of production, that scale of work, it's just been the spark where I'm just like, that's what I need to focus all my energy on.
Well, I think this all stems back, and I want to say it louder and make sure people didn't miss it. But what's so important is two things that I want to touch on. One is that when you were trying to figure out how do I get into these other levels of shooting, you were thinking in reverse. Okay, I know where I want to be. I want to be like this person. Okay, let me go find out everything I can about this person. Let me find out interviews. Let me understand why they do what they do. Let me go into the depths of figuring it out. And I think that curiosity and the research aspect of you knowing what you want, but then going back and willing to do that work to understand it, it's not work. It's something that you're so passionate about learning that you're like, I'll go head down for 10 hours and research this shit.
See it as an investment.
Yeah.
It's at the end of the day, it will pay off.
Yeah.
To me is like, once I did all that, when I went into that shoot, I wasn't nervous. No, because I prepared myself for that.
Yeah.
We did another project that hasn't come out yet. It's a campaign. It's a beer campaign that I can't talk about it yet, but once it's out, I will be able to. And we had so many hurdles because of coronavirus and the quarantining and everything to get through. And, but again, I went with people that I trust that would help me find answers. And anytime we had any hurdle, to me, it was like, I went straight to the people that would help me out and did the research. I said, okay, how can we fix this? Let me go dive down into that research and see. I'm not the only one with this problem. I know. So, this is things that happens to everybody.
Definitely.
And, it turned out amazing, and in a time where it could have turned out bad or it could not even have happened. They could have just canceled the whole project. We found a way to make it work. We found a way to make it happen.
Resourceful.
Yeah.
You're being resourceful.
Yeah.
And I think that's what these times are teaching us is like, how do you make it work with what you've got? Even when you were talking about the shoot and saying that the budget's got cut in half. Yes, we don't have all the money to work with and we're not going to be able to hire all these people and have this amazing set and design. But I think it, once again, kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about how as creatives, like you can't wait to get you'll do anything to get by. And then you get to the place where like you have enough money and then it's not really, there's a fire under your ass, but it's not so much.
Yeah.
I think
get comfortable.
Yeah, you get comfortable.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing of like being resourceful. Like I love being back on the grind right now where I'm not doing any visuals. This is the fun part of me figuring out my next creative venture. Cause it's like when I started Purpose in the Youth, there was no visuals, there was no lighting. It was just strictly audio and I'm back to square one.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, do I miss having visuals and having like a full production and like a studio setup? Yes. But I also love like the starting of something new and just like bootstrap this shit.
Yeah.
Like people make it work every day with little to no resources. And I think that's where you have some creative fun is like, okay, we were supposed to have X amount of dollars. It got cut in half. Instead of being pissed off and worried about like, I don't know how we're going to make this work. You go, okay, this is what I have to work with. How am I going to utilize this?
Yeah.
How am I going to deliver what I need to do?
Yeah. That's essentially everything you said was the exact conversation I had with myself.
Yeah.
How do I make this work?
Yeah.
There's no time to waste. Let's just go for it.
Yeah.
And like, I've been thinking about this, like, like pitching myself as like the resourceful guy who can make anything happen.
Brand. That's a great way to brand yourself.
So, but I don't want to give anyone
the visual creator that makes it work or something like that.
But like, I hope like, one thing like you can take away from this is that make yourself valuable regardless of the situation. Mm-hmm. To the people from the magazine, if I couldn't figure this out, I wasn't valuable to them. They would have gone strictly to somebody else who would have made it work. It was that time for me to step up and make this work. Mm-hmm. And when I got that email back, they were just like, no changes. This is it. Like to me, it was, like for a second, I was like, are you sure? Like you could tell me if you want to change like something here and there. It's cool. Like laptop's still open. I'm ready to go. And I got an email like towards it was about a week before the magazine release, and it was like, hey, like we really had you made this so easy for us. Like usually we thought like this was going to be the hardest issue because of the times, and we had like
You made it work.
They never, usually like the creative directors and photo directors for these magazines, they travel on site. They're on site to, monitor and micromanage whatever they want to, it's at the end of
their budget, right?
Right, exactly. But they couldn't, and they just trusted me. They were like, someone they never met, they never knew, but I was so confident being like, I'll make this work. Do not worry. That, a week before, like I got that email, they were just like, listen, man, like really, like we loved it. Like we can't believe that you made, and because I even said, I was like, it took me about 3 hours, and they were like dumbfounded. They're like, what?
Yeah.
How did you do this in 3 hours? I was like, it's, I went up to the client and I hammered the idea that of the importance of time management. I was like, hey, like I remember saying, like, I was like, hey, we're doing this as a private shoot almost. Okay. I just need the artists that are, the subject of the magazine, maybe an assistant, and that's it. Let's leave the entourages at home. I had to step up and say these things. I had to give the direction to say these things. I had to, take the responsibility to say like, hey, like this is my shoot. This is what happens on my shoot. Mm-hmm. And I explained that to them, and they were just like, because I'm sure they're used to having 1,000 people in these photo shoots, and every managers and agents and whoever are always friends are around. And it's like, it's a slow process. I was like, no, I knew that if I left all that in the air, it was going to take a long time. There was going to be like too many pauses. And the moment I started hitting started shooting, and I was like, all right, we're going to start point A here, then we're going to go here, then we're going to go there, and we're going to do this, And after we finished the first 2 sections, they were like, great, let's keep rolling,
baby.
And I love that about them. Like, they trust me so much that, I'm thankful like to have guys like that will not question my vision, will not question my creative direction, and trust it. And I remember there was one photo that I took and I showed it to them, and one of them was like, wasn't feeling it. He was like, I don't like this. Like, this just looks dumb, and I feel dumb in this outfit and this pose or whatever. It was the first photo that was approved.
Wow.
And
so they were caught up in their own head thinking this isn't the right one.
It's like, and I always say, like, I was like, just trust me, like it will look
I'm gonna make you look good, boys, don't worry.
Yeah, it was, I remember it was like when I got back the like, hey, we want, can you send these, because everything is sent low res at the beginning so they can pick, and once they pick the images, the first image was that photo. I was just like, I knew it was gonna be the one. But yeah, like what we were saying before that?
I just think there's so much. First off, it's when you have it goes back to even like what you were just saying earlier about having people to lean on and ask for advice, or there's so much importance of relationships, so that when you have an opportunity like that, you're planning and you know how to communicate, so it's so much easier to get things done. It's just like living with my buddy Dylan right here. I have a relationship with him where I grew up in the same hometown as him, 2 blocks over, so there's so much built into that relationship that we're here to build off each other. That's just like part of the energy. But
I kept thinking, I was like, I would do the exact same thing I did with them. I'm 1,000% going to translate it to anything else I do with anyone else. That's
replicate the process,
because I know that worked, and I know how the environment I created for that shoot was exactly what needed to happen, and it's exactly what I needed to see happen to give me that boost and that energy and that spark to like say like, no, like, I can do this. Like, you think that this world is reserved for people like Annie Leibovitz, for example. You see how there is a very, I'm not sure, I don't want to say it's a famous video, but it's a popular video that's on YouTube of her. It says Annie Leibovitz behind the scenes photo shoot or something like that. And it's her legit. She shows up in an SUV. All the production's already all set for her. Her assistants are there. There's tons of camera cases. She shows up. She's like looking at her planner for the, for whatever direction she's going with. She tells one assistant something like, "Hey, are the lenses ready?" And the guy's like, "Yep, everything's ready." She pops out of the van, and immediately starts. She doesn't waste any time. She said hello, obviously, but she didn't waste any time. She immediately went into it. She was like, "Now do this. Now get up here and do that." And it's very subtle, but if you really paid attention to it, and I'm sure the video is cut to make it look like that. Mm-hmm. But even if it was, it worked. Because that's an approach I took. I was like, I showed up and I was like, guys, are we ready? Wardrobe's ready. Let's not waste time. Let's put some pants on. Let's put some shirt. And immediately just started hammering into it. Where I was like, I don't want to waste any time.
Yeah.
And it worked. I try to maintain the positive energy and all that stuff to ensure like the mood was always good. So to me, it's like that worked. I'm just gonna translate that to everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with like people who can find that process where they show up and they brief themselves and then they get out and they go. And I think that's confidence from doing something over a bunch of different times that you're so confident you know what you need to do. I think that's somebody who's just really efficient, time management, who knows how to communicate ahead of time. Like, this is the plan. Let's go and execute, similar to what you were just describing. I'm just like obsessed with it. One thing I wanted to definitely touch on today, which I was so disappointed to not see you, was right before COVID hit.
Okay.
I was actually in Miami at the Maxim party where Alex and Drew performed.
Yeah.
So I find out Chainsmokers are headline time. Liquid IV was one of the sponsors of the night. And I'm like, perfect. I know two people that might even be here. I said, you're definitely going to be here. Yeah. And I said, maybe Jeremiah will be. Maybe. But I know Danilo was probably going to be there. I don't know. Didn't show up. And I was like, come on, dude.
Yeah, the boys were on that. They already started their social media blackout. So it was like,
you don't need to be there. Didn't need to be there,
which is great because we're on the chat with the entire crew, and seeing like the hours that the messages were coming through, and like seeing like how tired the crew was because how crazy that week was. Yeah, I kept thinking, I was like, wow, like that would have been a crazy nutty weekend to have, or because actually they were there for more than a week.
They were there they were there to headline the Saturday night show, but they also were there for the Friday night. I think it was part of their contract. They had to be there for both or something, but
it just looked
that
intense.
Dude, it was the who's who. That was my first time at a Super Bowl weekend. I was just like, yo, what the I'm up there with a camera fist bumping Kevin Hart. I got Rick Ross to the right, throwing $100 bills to strippers.
I saw a video. Who was it?
Kevin Hart. That was me.
On stage?
I fist bumped him on stage.
Oh, I thought it for some reason it was like French Montana or something.
No, it was Kevin Hart, bro. So, what's interesting is Kevin Hart is an investor of Liquid IV.
So
he was coming off stage, and there was a night earlier. There was about an hour earlier in the night. We had Kevin's finance guy had came over to our Liquid IV table by himself and said, "Hey, I'm Kevin's finance guy. Blah blah blah. I'd love to intro you guys to Kevin tonight." I'm like, fucking, let's go meet Kevin Hart. Got the camera. Let's go.
Wow.
And when we went to go meet him, he was mobbed. I mean, he had layers on layers and layers of people to get to him, which made sense. So we just said, screw it, we're not going to do it. And then he ended up introing Post Malone for the night. So I was side stage.
Did you not bump Post Malone? I thought you did.
No, I didn't get a chance. I got Russ. Hold on. Three people. Kevin Hart, Rick Ross, and Russ.
It might have been the Rick Ross one then, because I know there was somebody on stage performing.
Yeah, so it was Rick Ross,
and they were like, they came down, and you were just,
that was me.
In my head, I was like, you should, no joke, I was gonna message you, be like, you should do that every single time you're at a concert, and just make a series out of that.
I know. Well, dude, it was so funny to me because you got to understand too. I mean, we're not gonna get into the depths of it tonight, but like, I literally, when I got the role at Liquid IV, was to be a content producer, and I was somebody that had no previous experience of shooting with a camera. I understand like a lot of it, but so this was technically the first event I ever shot. And I'm at Super Bowl weekend, dude. I'm like, dude, this is gnarly. The joke
you're literally at the Super Bowl of events,
bro. It was literally the joke of the night where I was like, I do not deserve to be here. I ended up running into a kid that listened to Purpose in the Youth, and he was like, bro, how the hell are you here shooting? Wow. He's like, I've been trying to get to this point in my career. I said, bro,
that's incredible.
I don't know what to say. Like, it's the right place, right time. I don't know how I got put in this position, but
I'm sure you had that crazy rush.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
The one thing I learned about the type of video that we were there to document. And when I realized there was two of us there shooting, there was me who had no previous experience of shooting, and we had my other guy at Liquid IV. Shout out to my man Jamie, another bearded brother. Got to give him a shout out. He's very cinematic. He's been shooting for 10 plus years. So we tackle the night like this. All right, you handle cinematic, like make this thing look great. I'm going to go get all the energy. Cause that's me with a camera. I'm like, yo, what's up? Like going up to the girls, going up to guys, like just like get the vibe up. So Kevin Hart walked by, and I there was security, like the whole night. I go, In my mind, I go, just like when I saw Kevin Hart, there wasn't even a split second decision of like, should I say something? No. I saw Kevin going, I go, I'm saying something. He got a little bit closer to me, and I knew the only way I'm going to get his attention if I say Liquid IV, because he knows we've been crushing it.
Yeah.
I go, Liquid IV, and then he's like, oh, you're with the company? So he gave me a fist pump. He's like, you guys are fucking crushing it. I said, yep.
By the way, I love Liquid IV.
You like it?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
They're not a sponsor. Maybe they are. Who knows?
No, well,
but the package I got,
immediately
we put it to work because we are at the golf course. It may not seem like it's a lot of, a workout or anything like that.
You're out in the sun all day, brother.
4 hours.
Easy.
And we kept thinking like, I was like, we do bring like bottles of water. We always buy water and all this stuff, but it never feels like enough. It feels like you're overdoing it. And it was the weekend of my birthday. We had a big group of 8 guys who were playing. And the night before, we had been partying at one of our friends' house. So there was a couple of people that were just rough in the morning. And I brought a bunch of packets. Within I want to say the second hole, everybody just perked up. I was like, let's hammer this course. Like, let's go.
There's the personal endorsement right there.
And it's become like my staple. People say like keys, wallet, mask.
Yeah.
It's like when I go to a golf course, I have 2 little Liquid IV pouches in there. Just because I'm like, I don't know which flavor I'm going to want in that moment. But so I always pick like 2 different flavors that I want to get. And I always do it.
I love that.
It's become like now like a thing where I'm just like, it's like, it works.
Yeah.
Just, it's so easy.
I know. Bro, that's the thing about, I'm so lucky. I mean, that's a whole nother story. Just like working for them. But like to have access to this, I'm sending myself shipments because I literally drink 3 packets a day. Yeah. But I like, it's great to work for a company that I actually believe in the product. Yeah. So it's like when I saw you running that time in Manhattan, I just want to get the product, and I love this about the company. They are all about sticks in hands. Yeah. Just get the product in people's hands and let it do itself. And that I was like, no question asked. I have to get it. I gotta get to him.
I had forgotten that. I actually I got a box from Steve Aoki because I think he's also an investor.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And
because you had previous work with him. I mean, there's probably
I had done a week, like almost 2 weeks with him. I think it was about 2-3 weeks after he had come.
That's the Steve Aoki.
Oh, okay.
So you got the Bieber one up front in the pink, and then the Steve Aoki behind it.
I remember he had posted about that, and then I did this run with him, and we went to one of the days we're at his Vegas house, and just had all this Liquid IV everywhere.
Yep.
And he just was like, "Here's a box for you."
There you go.
And I remember looking, I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. This is my unhealthy lifestyle. The cheeseburgers at 3 a.m. 100%. Kind of lifestyle. And thinking about it, and I'm just like, why didn't I think about it like then? I could have just started so long ago. It would have been in amazing shape by now. But whatever.
I'm glad you're a fan.
I'm a fan.
I'm a fan. I will be sending you some more, and I'll be keeping you stocked up. Yeah. What's I'm curious. What's an area of your life you want to work on more? Is there anything specific?
I want to work more on myself, in terms of the creative side, the work side. I've been focusing on that for 10 years, there are parts of myself that I didn't, most people are too shy to talk about it and really we go through things, I want to, for me, a message I like in telling people now, it's it's okay that you're not feeling great. Yeah. It's okay that you're not that your day wasn't perfect, or, you're not feeling good about this and that. You have to go through those motions. Mm-hmm. And one thing I've been working on is more of myself and going through those motions, realizing, the things I did wrong in certain relationships, the things I did wrong, it's part of myself, again, it started with the diet. I had to realize that eating, a cheeseburger at 3 a.m, editing, while it was something I needed in that moment because I needed to eat, I hadn't eaten throughout the evening. It wasn't beneficial to me. The next day I felt awful, physically, mentally, I put myself in a position to not succeed. And for me, it's I want to put myself in positions to succeed in every aspect. And a huge aspect that I needed to work on was the mental side of it. There were many moments on tour where, you go through insecurities about your work, one word can trigger this downfall of, for saying, going through an insecure phase about your work and your creativity and the work you're putting out, not wanting to show other things because you think people won't like it. And to me, it was like, I needed to start learning how to deal with that better, how to fix things about myself that I've been neglecting for like 10 years because I've just went so hard in the creative side and trying to build this brand and trying to build my work. I'll quote this photographer, videographer, Jake Champs. He posted something recently on Twitter that I didn't reply back to him because in my head I was like, the message was perfect. And I was like, I'm just going to take it for myself and I'm going to do with the message what I want to do. And he was like, for the past, 10 years, I've worked to get to the top of music touring photography. And that was taken away from me. What do I do with my life now? And I could have taken so many, it could have gone really bad. But as part of the growth with work, I had to realize that message is very deep and has a lot of different meanings, because what you don't see is like that depression of like, hey, you work for everything. And when somebody takes something away from you, you're not going to feel good about that. But I needed to defeat that. I needed to find ways to better myself in regards to how I felt. And I didn't do it alone. I'm thankful I have a really close friend who every day made sure that made me feel that I wasn't alone. That I wasn't alone going through whatever I was going through at that moment. If I had questions or if I wasn't feeling good, our group of friends, we made it a point to be like, tell us so we can talk about it.
Yeah.
And I avoided that.
Important.
I avoided that for so long and I don't even know why. I look back at it now and just like, I don't know why I avoided that. It's such a simple thing. And I'm happy we've created this like support group of friends that, in the worst times we're there to help each other and the good times we're there to help each other. But it was important for me to really work on that now because I have the time now. If I didn't do this now, I'm probably never going to do it. I probably would have continued with, the same pattern of behavior that wasn't working. There was a lot of things that, I don't want to say I'm not proud of, but, because it's just, it was in the moment. I can't change what the things I've done. I can't change the behavior I've displayed, I'm pretty sure I wasn't the best of friends at times to a lot of my friends, ignore a lot of friends, ignore a lot of family. And I needed to work on that. I needed to find that balance. And I think it's, to me, like the things I've done, I view it as I can do this. Like I can have both. You can have your cake and you can eat it as well. You don't need to not give yourself that proper care that most people in our industry just, they kind of just put it to the side. I'm like, I'll get to that. I'll get to that. And 10 years later, you still haven't got to that. And I had to really sit down and really be like, introspectively accept my wrongs, introspectively accept all the things that I wasn't happy about myself. I had to face that, and it's scary to face that on your own.
Hell yeah.
And, like I said earlier, like I when people feel like stressed out about not having work, like I was like, hey, I don't have work. We're in this together. You're not alone. Like I don't want people to feel like that, because there were moments I felt alone but it was mainly because I wasn't talking to anybody about it. I wasn't really going through the motions of really expressing how I felt about certain things. And now I'm not going through that. Now I'm like, if I'm not feeling good, I will tell a friend. Hey, so I was like, hey man, I'm going through this. I don't know why. And and we'll go through the moment. We'll go through the working out what the issues may be,
Isn't it amazing how good it feels though to let things off your chest?
Yeah.
It's like a high.
Yeah.
That's why I love doing like these conversations or even part of this new branding of It's the Bearded Man podcast. There's also solo pods that I'm incorporating, but there's such a relief of just, even if you don't have anybody to talk to, just say it out loud or write it down or find a medium that allows you to express it. But I think we have to, I look back even 30 years ago, or even if I think back to when my parents were kids, maybe it wasn't the masculine thing to do to talk about your emotions. There's even times when I've shared things on my social media where I know that there's for sure friends of mine that are going to look at this and be like, they're going to judge me. They're like, he's being too vulnerable. And they're usually the people that I don't even talk to as much anymore. because the people that I can be vulnerable with and share things, they're usually very supportive of me. But I just think there's so much upside to actually sharing the way you feel and telling people how you feel. And yeah, I don't know. You get something from it.
What did it to me? I don't know if people paid attention. I mean, some people did, some people didn't. I made a post on the last day of the tour, and it was December 7th. And I remember, like, I was like emotional. I was like, damn, this sucks. It's over. I mean, obviously, 2 weeks later, we were back on the road. But to me, it was like I was emotional that this period was over. And I don't know what caused it. I can't really explain it. But I remember I got on Instagram and I made a video where I was just walking. I didn't say anything. I was just walking. And I was like tearing up in the video. It's very subtle, but I wrote this long-winded thing about like loving what you do. And, like if you don't feel this way, like you really don't love what you do. And it was like a long thing. Yeah. But I've gone back to that post because I have it saved. And I was like, I needed to go through that because when I got home, I realized a lot of the wrong things I was doing because I had an opportunity to sit there in that video and actually speak up and use my words and my voice to like express like, hey man, like this sucks, man. Like I wish it was an ending and like I'm emotional and I'm going through this. And I think it would have helped a lot of people out. And I'm sure like what I wrote did help people out because my message in that moment was like, it was basically about you need to have, if you don't feel the passion that this will hurt you, like in the sense of like emotionally, like it affects you, then you're not doing it for the right reasons, which I still believe in that. Like obviously like with everything that you put on, you're putting yourself in this, especially, in a podcast, it's your voice. People will see and hear. And, from one thing you say, 10 different people will get 10 different messages and it will affect them in different ways, but it's deep from you, And I needed to do that. I needed to use my voice more. And slowly I started doing that, like with certain Instagram posts, like writing about like more in regards to like how things feel during this moment, how I was going through certain things, and it's okay to go through that. Yeah. And that's where like, to me, like, one of the things like I needed to really, really work on was myself, and share that, because I've felt alone in those islands, and I hate for like young creators to be going through that and feel like they're alone. Like my DMs are open, as long as it's like something that I can add value to your questions or issues, whatever. My DMs are open. Yeah. If you want to know like where Drew and Alex are, my DMs aren't open.
Yeah, come on. Come on, guy. Yeah. Let this guy's DM chill.
Right. But I if I see a message and it's someone has like an actual problem, right? I will immediately reply. I stop everything I do and I reply because I wish someone did that for me when I was coming up in the business. Yeah. And obviously it was different times. Like, people weren't really like, I feel like right now, especially it's a great time. It's a great time to be alive because
what a time to be alive,
because we're accepting it. We are accepting that the world is not perfect. We see it every day, and it's okay to go through all of these bad things. It's okay to go through all these bad emotions, mentally, physically, whatever you're going through, and be able to talk about it and not feel, like you spoke about your parents, I know for a fact, like my parents did not grow up that way. They don't express that kind of stuff. Like we are very close and we do talk about our problems and issues, but emotionally, the way they grew up, they didn't grow up that way. My dad didn't share that one day he was sad because X, Y, and Z to his dad, but I can express that to my dad, and I for the longest time I didn't, I was, I don't want to say shut off from expressing those sort of things with family, but
like we all do that though. Yeah. We don't want to share that emotion with our feelings, like mom or dad. Right. Like there's just like that barrier where you're just like, I don't want to tell you how I'm feeling. Right. Like, mom wants to ask a million questions about dating and all this. I'm like, this is why I don't tell you certain things. Okay. Like,
but now I do. Yeah. And, we may not share the same views or the same mentality, but it feels good to share. It feels good to like really show my real self, with people. Like, I know that there is, I don't want to say a misconception, but, people may think I'm a certain way when I'm not. I used to joke that people thought, I was an asshole, at the beginning, or at the middle of my career, because I wasn't so open about like sharing advice or stuff like that, or just pretend I was too busy to really talk to anybody. And, I think we talked about it. I was like, no, I changed that. When I realized, I was like, I could do better by really answering questions and giving advice and talking. I had to do that to myself.
Yeah.
I really had to sit down and do that with myself.
Yeah.
And that's what, to me, like, this has been such a, yes, it's not the perfect time. Yes, we're not living in a perfect world. There's so much things happening in this world, but I had to take this time and see the good of it and fix the wrong within myself, so I can then be able to spread it out. I don't want to just do this for myself. Like, I've gotten some DMs where like kids are really depressed because they can't, their parents don't approve of a lifestyle of a tour photographer because they don't understand. And I've sat there being like, hey, it's okay. Let me explain to you why it's okay. And you're not alone. And I'm going to tell you why you're not alone. And I've gotten some messages back where they're like, I was like, dude, I really needed that conversation. I feel so much better now. And I'm like, don't let this conversation die with me. Go spread that conversation with your friends,
have it with
your
people,
family,
get in your community.
Yeah, like go talk to your dad.
Yeah.
The conversation you had with me, how open you were with me, go be open with your dad about that. He may still not,
approve of it
or understand it, but little by little, he will respect that you are at least honest with him, but more importantly, with yourself.
Yeah.
And I had to be honest with myself about a lot of things, Again, we can go back to the whole photo shoot thing. I had to be honest with myself that I didn't know what in the world I was getting myself into.
Yeah.
But I had to speak about it and talk about it and ask questions and really express the discomfort I had. Like I spoke with one person about how nervous I was about that shoot. And I spoke with him twice about it. And both times he gave me the same advice. And he was like, essentially the advice was like, you're supposed to be nervous. If you weren't nervous, you wouldn't care. And it legit just put me at complete balance, complete ease.
Yeah.
And that helped me.
Yeah. So. I think it's all about just perspective. We kind of glazed over it, but the guy who had tweeted that out and said, I've worked 10 years of my life. Now what am I supposed to do? That's a great example of like, it's all about the lens in which you're seeing things. And of course it's not always the lens we want things to be, but it's like, what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
What else are you going to do? Like, there's nothing else you can do. So the faster you can adjust and change that lens of like, I've worked 10 years of my life. Now what am I supposed to do? To I've worked 10 years to get here. How do I utilize my tools, my resources to make the next pivot? Because clearly I can't keep going this way. How else am I going to adjust? Yeah. Same thing with your friend where you're saying you're nervous. The lens is just, you're not nervous because you're going to screw it up. You're nervous because you actually care. That's actually something that's great. That's showing that you're passionate and you're excited about the shoot in front of you. But I think that's one thing that I think I've gotten really, really sharp with. And it's probably a lot through podcasting and meeting people and hearing stories, but it literally just is all about your perspective and how are you actually seeing the world. Because, I mean, the cliches, there's always somebody that has it worse off than you. Totally true. Do you see the glass half full? I mean, it's just the faster you can transition that perspective, I think is just the faster you, instead of being stuck and frozen, you then can start moving forward. That's literally why I got this tattoo. This is something new that since I've seen you last. Only tattoo I got is Keep Going. And the font, his name is Beyond Infinity, which is perfect. Oh, wow. Keep going beyond infinity. But to me, that was right when I got the job with Liquid IV, when I was transitioning out of Uber, stopping Purpose in the Youth. But to me, it was like a reminder of like, keep going. Yeah. Like no matter, I love just those two words, like no matter where you are, if things are going good, if things are going bad, you just have to keep going. You just have to keep the momentum going and adjust. And remember that you're not alone. Yeah. Like there will be people that will come into your life that will show you that. Yeah. You will be surrounded with the people. I believe in that. What do they call it? Positive affirmations. No, the rule of attraction. 100%. Law of attraction all day. I to me, like that's like one of the number one things I love. Like it's like, think about the positive that you want in your life. Think about the negative that you don't want in your life. And that's what you need to attract. Yeah. That's what you need to bring into your life. And it will happen. I know because when I needed these friends
that were going to help me come out of my shell emotionally and mentally, and were going to help me with this. I know I didn't do this by myself. I knew I had friends and significant others, who were there for me and were allowed me to really express myself. And what I didn't realize is that's been there past 10 years.
Yeah.
I just was so wrapped up in other things that I didn't see that. Take that time.
Yeah.
Utilize this time to really help yourself grow. Because once you start doing that, I mean, that's you're going to be unstoppable, essentially.
Yeah.
Like to me right now, it's the best I've felt in a really, really, really long time, both physically and especially emotionally and mentally, where I'm like, I can tackle anything. Stress, that's nothing. Let's go.
Yeah.
Like I'm ready. So,
yeah. That's awesome to hear, because I really hope that that's where a lot of people are at this point of dealing with quarantine and COVID, is trying to lean into the situation we've been in for 4 or 5 months and could be in longer. And how do you make use of this downtime, and how do you look inward? This has been the most amount of time I've looked inward, of trying to find passions and trying to fix those areas of my life that I was procrastinating for years, and trying to become more of a well-rounded individual instead of just so focused on work. Like, what does life look like outside of work, outside of doing passion projects like this? Like, what are my passions? What does dating look like to me? What does trying new restaurants and places in LA that I've never been? Like, so literally it's just, you have to divide your life up into like these little sections, and try to put more energy and time and effort. I tweeted the other day because I was thinking about other areas of my life I'm trying to work on right now, and I thought about it, and I was getting frustrated because certain things aren't going the way I want them to go. And I'm also like, wait a second, you've only been working on this for a very short amount of time. There is no progress without the effort. I can't expect a month, 2 months, or 3 months of effort to just change everything overnight. If I continuously put in this effort for the next coming months and maybe the next year, there's going to be a lot of progress in that area of my life, and all these different areas of my life. So, there is no progress without effort.
You got to do the work.
Yeah.
You have to do the work.
Yeah. I'm curious if you want to touch on it. If not, we can glaze right over. We were talking about emotions, being authentic, and sharing our voice. There is a potential interest in wanting to start a podcast.
Yeah.
Do you want to give some context as to high level without going into the details?
Well, I think, I've been inspired by you. I've been inspired by other friends who have taken this direction, and seeing how, like, I love seeing, like, when you post about this, your posts are the most exciting posts that you always do, because it's your voice that you're sharing, of course,
Yeah.
And to me, I've always enjoyed sitting down with you and these other podcasts I've done in the past, where I'm like, I enjoy talking and enjoy giving advice, and like that one tweet that it kind of gave me like introspective on myself. To me, I hope that whatever I say like has many different meanings for many different people, and they can take advantage or not, however they wish, but that at the end of the day it will help. And I trying to find that voice for myself, like trying to find that outlet. And I've been talking with a friend of mine about doing it. We're still trying to figure everything out logistically, days, like direction and all that stuff. Like that's, still in the works, that's going to be something that, probably, I hope maybe we can put something out this year, but I know we're going to try to really make it meaningful, make it fun as well. I don't want it to be like, like a hour of just downer talk, and like crazy, just deep down emotional dive into everything. Like, obviously we want to keep it fun, but I also want to be able to have that same excitement that you have when you share your voice and you share your ideas and you share what's inside of you. Yeah. Like that to me is like such an amazing outlet. Like I see like all the guys that do it. I'm just like, that's such a great thing that you're doing. Like you may not know that you're doing that, but with your previous podcast and with this one, you help so many different people, that you may not even in that moment, you weren't really, maybe you didn't, maybe you did, but I'm telling you, like that, sharing that voice is something that like right now I'm extremely interested in, and how can I do it better? Yeah.
I would say this, I think would be my advice. Couple things. One would be, definitely understand if you're doing with a friend, there's a lot of technicality, because it's like, especially with what's happening right now, like, do we do this remote? Okay. Are we doing this in person? Great. Are you coming to my place? Awesome. What day of the week are we doing? Like, how do we schedule this in as a time? So I would say two things. let that kind of happen as it's naturally supposed to happen.
Yeah.
But I honestly would challenge you, and I don't even think you've even considered this, is starting a solo podcast for yourself and brand it as just yourself and do something similar to what I'm trying to do now. I'm calling this the It's the Bearded Man podcast, where I'm doing solo pods and I'm also doing guest pods. I'm not saying you have to do guest pods, but you're already interested in the medium. You have already seen the value of listening to other shows to hear more about things you want to learn. Yeah. And you've also seen the value of you sharing your voice. Yeah. You know the value on both sides, and you're already interested in the actual space. Why not create a platform that it doesn't have to be every Wednesday, doesn't have to be like I'm posting once a month. It's I'm going to share my voice when I have something I want to talk about. There's no video. That's just literally you get yourself a mic, you get yourself a spot at your crib, and you write down a couple notes. I'll send you some templates of what I do for previous podcasts, and you go, you know what, today I want to talk about this new project that just rolled out. Like I want to go through the creative process, this, and the third. Then the next episode, you're like, man, I got to tell you guys this crazy story. Like it can be whatever you want. At a high level, before we got into this podcast, what I was saying about podcasting, and I think if there's any advice I could give myself when I first started in the very beginning back in 2016, it would be podcasting at its core is just a conversation, and it's just people talking. There absolutely is no wrong or right way to do it at all. It's all about the way the host wants to take the show. So I would say, think about it like that. Like you can create your own solo podcast as well as do the other podcast with the homie. Yeah. But what if you had a medium where you could just once in a blue moon just share whatever you have going through your mind, or you're seeing the same 15 DMs every couple weeks. Okay, guys, gals, I've been hearing this DM. This is the question. Here you go. Now, anytime somebody hits you up, you can send them a genuine link of 45 minutes of answering that question.
Wow. That last one is something that never even crossed my mind. Wow.
The title of your episodes could literally be the questions that you're continuously seeing in your DM.
Yeah.
How do I get my first client? How do I start working for people like the Chainsmokers? How do I get my first car relationship so I can start shooting for automobiles? You can literally, that's what I'm saying. Like there is no right or wrong. You could have the first 3 episodes be questions. The 4th one is you talking about something that happened in your life. The 5th one's about you sit down with a homie and you guys have a conversation. Like there's literally no wrong or right way to do it. But I think, and I genuinely believe, you have a voice and you have a lot of powerful things to say. It's a new space. Yeah. It's something you've never experienced other than being on the other side of the mic and being on somebody else's show or listening to interviews. But it's just a conversation, man. It's just talking, and I think it's so beautiful, and I think a lot of people would find value in what you have to say.
That's why I saw what you were doing, and that's why I messaged you. I was like, oh, I love this direction. Like you're just free talking, And when I walked in, you were like, hey, we're just going to talk. Like, there isn't, I didn't want to tell you anything. I'm just like, great.
And I didn't want to get into like, how you been? Like, I didn't want to even warm the conversation up, because I was like, if we're going to talk about it, like, why not just record it? Like, that's that's why I love this new stuff where purpose and youth is beautiful with storytelling. This is like, I have some talking points that like, I definitely want to touch on, or maybe I won't touch on, but it's there if I need it. Other than that, it's like, I'm challenging myself more, where before I was so caught up in like making sure I hit all of these bullet points, to now it's like, I just want to be present. Forget about these mics, forget about the headphones. If I was having coffee with you right now, what would that conversation be like? I want to replicate that here, even if the mics, because there is a feeling when you put the mics here and you're like, people are coming in, you're like sitting down, like, it's like you're warming up to like what's about to come. But
there was a time that we had discussed like, hey, like, we kind of meet up for like these like coffee talks. Like, why don't we just bring mics? And just like, we always sit here for like 45 minutes to an hour. Just leave the mics open. Whatever we're talking about, like, don't even act like there's a mic. Just hold it
forget
there.
About it.
Just record it. Yeah. But then there was all the logistics of people walking by. And
that's where it gets a little bit harder. You definitely would have to probably want everybody to come to like somebody's crib and throw a mic on the middle. Yeah. But it just takes repetition, man. It's just like when you picked up a camera for the first time. You're funky. You don't know what you're doing.
You just got to do the first one.
You got to get the first one in the books. That's it. Rip the Band-Aid off, and then you keep flowing. But I definitely challenge you, and I think that would be something very beneficial for people that are listening to this podcast and definitely want to hear more from from you.
Yeah. Now that I'm like, sort of, finding myself, and like helping myself out, like I want to take what I've learned from my own, just my own advice that I had to follow, my own little ways of getting out of my way.
Yeah.
And I know, because I've seen the DMs, I see the questions, I see like people tweeting about it or putting on Instagram, like what the things that they're going through. And I'm just like, like this requires a conversation. Like, I hate to just like text somebody and like, it gets, texts are always slow and things like that. I'm like, I always want to be like, hey, like just call me.
Yeah.
Like, let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a thing, just having open conversations.
Keep in the back of your mind. You got my number. If there's any time you want to talk through ideas, like don't even hesitate to reach out.
I'm coming to you.
Yeah, that's please.
I'm going to do the research with everything.
I got a PDF I will send you that I wrote last summer. It'll get you like the process flowing,
like
and then if there's any more details,
you're hitting like the, my go-to things.
I'm a big encourager of starting podcasts.
I'm a huge. I love podcasts. I listen to so many different ones about like just about everything possible. Sports, guy talk, radio.
Yeah.
I've even gone down the rabbit hole of what is that? It's called Serial, I think.
Oh, Serial. That's like the true crime.
Right,
that's
right.
Like
where I'm
OG
like,
stuff.
it's hard. You really have to pay attention. Like the moment you stop paying attention, like you won't be able to keep up.
Yeah.
You'll lose something, and then like something will happen. You're like, what? How do we get here?
Yeah. Rewind.
Right.
Yeah. Those you have to be like in it.
Yeah.
Those are
I've gone deep down like the rabbit holes of podcasting, like so many different ones, and I don't want to say like I've heard them all, but I'm like, it's just such an interesting thing to me. Like these people are like have this incredible voices, and like some of them may just be comedy podcasts, some of them may be about crime, some of them may be about like sports, but it's like all these voices that like everyone's just getting something out of it. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to find that voice. How do I?
And you only find it by trying.
You
only find it by trying, my man. You got to fire up the mics and let it direct you. I wouldn't be here doing this type of podcast if I didn't do Purpose in the Youth. And I wouldn't have done Purpose in the Youth had I didn't know what I was trying to figure out with my life.
Till this day, people will DM me randomly like, dude, I just ran into this interview you did at Purpose in the Youth. This was great. And I received it from the moment you put it out till even, I think it was the last one I got so far was, I think about a month ago.
Wow.
It was so random. Like I see it, I'm like, and I go back, I'm like, wait, when did that come out? Like, why are you, but I can tell like they may have just discovered it and they're just going deep dive into that podcast, like hour after hour after hour, just to see
the progress.
Not only that, but what's going to hit for them.
Yeah.
Like in that, for that person, like what hit was what I said.
Yeah.
Obviously there was like other ones you did that, they mentioned like, they mentioned a Como one that you did, and I think I forgot there was another one they mentioned, and they had like they screenshotted like the time that I said something. They were like what you were saying during this time, like I really needed to hear that, and I'm like,
wow, they're getting real specific. How do I
expand on that?
Yeah. I think what's super interesting that I'm seeing now happen is what I think is so beautiful about that project is it's time capsules, right? So for example, like you, this was a year ago, but can you imagine what it's going to be like to look back on that in 5 years and like you be able to reflect from like a career standpoint, me be able to reflect as a host. I think that is something that I didn't even really realize while I was doing it. And a more recent example was with that I'm now seeing like it come back to life where there's a comedian creator called, his name's Trevor Wallace. Yeah. You've probably seen his content. It gets shared. He's literally has 1.6 million. He's literally the greatest comedic content creator out there. And he does stand up. He crushes it. I interviewed him in February of 2018 is when the podcast came out. He was at 34,000 followers. I still remember it like it was yesterday. Wow. Now he's at 1.6.
Wow.
And literally 2 weeks ago, there's a YouTube channel called Before They Were Famous. Yeah. And 3 million plus subscribers. And this YouTube channel essentially storyboards how people got to where they are. Yeah. And they pulled a clip from that podcast.
That's incredible.
And so I'm sitting there. Now, mind you, I had 8 seconds of fame where I'm like, Trevor, tell me about where you're from. And then Trevor's like, oh, here we go. And then they cut it to the next clip. But I was like, how cool is that I was able to capture his time to where he was in his career, which he didn't even know what was coming down the road.
Yeah.
And so now like to see it full circle into like, that was 2 years ago. Wait, now what's going to happen when these podcasts are 5 years or like 10 years? Like I really feel passionate about the 148 guests that I got on. Like these are movers and shakers in all different industries and all different passions that like they're young. Yeah. Like they still got a lot of fuel in the tank. Like,
oh yeah,
to be able to like go back and see some of these interviews in 5 years from now and see the progress they made, like it's gonna be priceless.
I mean, I think about it, I think last year, if you'd have asked me what am I working on, like that's different outside from, the creative side, I don't think I would have answered myself. I would have been like, oh, I'm working on myself. I'm pretty sure I would have shied away from even talking about that.
Yeah.
And like the moment you said that, I was like, I know I should say this right now, because I know people are going through this, the exact same thing that I'm going through. There are some kids out there or other people that are going through this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I know. And that's good when you have that gut reaction where you go, I don't know if I should say this, and you actually just do it.
Yeah.
That's the most authentic stuff, is when it's just purely from the gut, purely from the heart. I want you to put I challenged you to the whole, the podcast, but I want you to challenge the listeners, to do something after this podcast. Like, whether it's read a book, listen to a podcast, just anything that's going to help them improve themselves. What's something that you would like to challenge anyone that listens to this podcast?
I would say, this is probably won't be the most popular thing, but I would say put the cameras down, put the creative things down, and really dedicate, it doesn't even have to be a long period of time, but maybe dedicate one day to yourself. Really dedicate the time to see what good you can do outside of what you think. I used to think that my purpose was based on my work. I thought that that's what defined me. And now I'm finding that that doesn't have to define everything that's about me. I feel like a lot of these creators are defined by their work, by the content they put out. And, they always say like, you meet them and they're completely different and they're this way or that way. Take that time to really develop that part of yourself, because I wasted 10 years not doing that. Don't waste 10 years not doing that. I'm telling you, you can do both.
Yeah.
You can put all into your creative side, and at the same time, take the time for yourself to really go through the motions of going through whatever is making you feel bad or whatever makes you feel good. Take advantage of honing into those moments and giving yourself those answers that you're going to need as your career grows. And I mean, you're going to me, like I think about it, if I would have done this throughout this past 10 years, where I would be. And obviously, like, I can't change that, but I know that what I know now of myself and what I've gone through and, trying to help myself, is that there's nothing that's going to stop me.
Yeah.
That's what you can get out of this. Nothing's going to stop you if you at least take the time to put those things away and really concentrate and hone, just even if it's an hour of the day for yourself, all distractions away, really just on you, you know? Like, if you don't help yourself, most people won't even dare try, But when you are helping yourself, you're going to see a huge change on how people will approach you and would want to help you as well. Yeah. So that's, to me, is where
I think, just to go off that, I think what happens is, and this is at least me speaking from my story, is that when you're getting into something new, you're passionate about, you have so much energy to just get out there and do the work. Okay. You have so much to prove because you're at the very starting that you just like. And I did it for 3+ years. I just got so narrowly focused. It's either work or nothing else. It's work. It's nothing else. I need to prove to the world that I can do this. I know that I'm capable. I just need to keep putting in the work. And then at some point, I see it from a lot of people where it's like they've had their head down for long enough. They have a resume to be like, to utilize that and to be like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. And then the balance starts to show up in their life. And then they start to actually focus on certain areas of their life and have those conversations within them about like, what does my life look like without work? Like, what else makes me happy? Whether it's golfing, learning how to surf, going for runs on the weekends, like grabbing coffee with a friend. Like, it's so crucial to keep all those boxes checked off, because now my day of the week is Sunday. I go, unless, not even unless. There's you're not creating, you're not podcasting, you're not blogging, you're not doing anything creative. You're enjoying yourself. You're going to the beach. You're going to learn how to surf. You're just hanging out and watching movies. Like, I'm trying, and this is still very new to me, is like dedicating one full day. Yeah. I'm not putting a schedule on my day. I'm not worried about getting up and getting after it. I wake up when my body feels like it needs to get up. Yeah. And then I go surf, or then I go to the beach, or like, go have some good times with friends, listen to music. Like, I don't know. It's just, I'm a big believer of like, if you can give yourself one full day a week, do it.
Yes.
And if you're somebody that's in that grind and you're trying to prove something and, maybe financially you're not at a point where you can really take that full day, take a half day.
Yeah.
Take a half day and just give it to yourself and just chill and just relax, and
100%.
It'll sharpen your mind. It'll sharpen your mind and sharpen you. You'll be more inspired to go back to work with time away than if you had just worked through that whole day or whole afternoon.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
Damn, bro, it's a pleasure, man. You were honestly really the first official type of guest to come on this podcast, because I've already had my roommate Dylan and my roommate Steve, but I don't really count them as true guests because I already live with them. So it's like, all right, guys, let's just like do this now.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you coming through today, especially with something so new and taking the time to be part of this.
It seems like every time we do this, there's a milestone, because when I did The Purpose in the Youth was your 3-year anniversary.
You're right.
Of the podcast.
You're right.
Which I didn't know.
You're right.
And now like this, I'm like, let's do this.
You're right. Yeah. See, there's
like
something
it.
There's something that's good that's building right here.
Oh yes. Yeah.
But man, I respect you, Danilo, and
we have to say that we have to get you on the golf course more.
Yeah.
I saw you with Jeremiah. I sent the texts out in the DMs. I was like, guys,
I'm game.
Both of you are ducking me. They're like,
I'm ready to freaking get out there and show you boys how to play some fairways and greens. So talk now. When we come back for the next podcast, we'll pick up on the golf course.
We always try to be like so serious, and I'm like, I always go like, no, it's a fun thing. Don't worry about it. No one cares. 3 holes in, like,
game time.
How many shots you were in?
I think that was 7. Yeah. I don't know about that 6 that you got.
I got a 6.
You're keeping a track.
That looks like an 8 to me, but okay. Well, yeah.
We're going to get on the course.
We have to.
I love it. My man, thank you so much for coming in today,
Thank you for having me, dude.
Awesome. We'll talk to you guys next time. See ya.
Peace.